great basketball.
Defender to the basket, Jason Tatum.
Recovering pre and post game back on this channel.
The Boston Celtics defeat the Orlando Magic. Hold on, let me switch the camera here. It's our first show back. 126 to 120. Ian, how do you feel? I mean, welcome back. First of all, welcome back, everybody, to Celtics Postgame Live. Yes, this is the third game of the season, but we've either been at the game or we've been so busy we couldn't cover the game. But finally tonight, at least two of us were available to do a quick little show here tonight. But huge win for the Celtics and improved to 3-0. Ian, how are we feeling? I mean, nothing but good vibes. Total opposite of last season.
I mean, if you could not come up with a better start for the Celtics. I mean, all those years of saying how slow a start the Celtics have every single year. You know, they get off slow. Tatum doesn't look good to start the year. The entire team looks bad to start the year. But no, the Boston Celtics are 3-0 for the first time. I don't know. I can't remember. Was it like 2010 was the last
2009, 2010, yeah.
2009, 2010. I heard on the broadcast it was the first time we're 3-0 without Scalabrine on the team. So that's a W.
That's a long time.
But yeah, I mean, what else are you going to say? This was probably the definition of what all of us have thought. Not only is Jason Tatum going off, you have your depth pieces going off. You know, Jaylen Brown didn't have an amazing game, but one of our depth pieces did, and his name is Derek White. He was absolutely insane tonight.
Right, Ian, and I'm glad you brought that up because Rob's sick tonight, so he couldn't join. So hopefully he's getting better. But I mentioned to him, I was like, yeah, the Celtics might not be playing as well as they did the first two games, but something to take away from this is that you have guys like Derek White. We saw Sam Hauser. He had 9 points.
Peyton Pritchard showed up tonight.
Peyton Pritchard came in, hit a couple shots. Corner office. Grant Williams came in, hit some shots. Blake Griffin diving on loose balls. Like, those are the performances.
I knew you liked that.
I know. Those are the performances, though, in all seriousness, that the Celtics lacked that last year. You didn't have that type of depth to come in and help you win games. And I'm going to be honest with you, like, this is a huge win for the Celtics. And why I'm so excited about this is because, yeah, the Celtics didn't play well, but they found a way to win. No Al Horford. I can't really bring up no Gallo or no Robert Williams because we didn't have him for games 1 and 2, but you're shorthanded coming into one of the youngest teams in the NBA. These guys are unbelievably talented. The Orlando Magic are a great young team, very springy, second night of a back-to-back. The Celtics had all the excuses in the world to come out sloppy, and they dished out 24 assists on just 8 turnovers in a Celtics win. And like you said, for the first time in over a decade, the Celtics are 3-0.
It's insane. And I mean, all respect to the Orlando Magic.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, Franz Wagner was insane. Paolo Banchero looked, even though he had a struggle shooting, he looked really good. Freaking Terrence Ross. Of course, Terrence Ross went off because he goes off against the Celtics every single time they play us. But he was off tonight. I mean, Wendell Carter looked really good. Yeah. You know, you can't say enough of how much talent is on this Orlando Magic team. And, I mean, even though they're 0-2, their record doesn't really reflect how good they play. So
they've been in all 3 games.
Yeah, the fact that the Celtics were in this game, they're coming off a back-to-back against Miami. You know, it was a tough game against Miami. Coming off a back-to-back. And, you know, it wasn't the prettiest win. You know, there's still a lot to improve on, especially on the defensive end. But, I mean, you know, it's just the fact that the Celtics are finding ways to win. That's what good teams in the NBA do. They find ways to win no matter what.
Right. And I mean, come on, 3-0 compared to last year's 0-3 or 1-2, whatever it was. Like, this is the
remember when we booed? Remember when against Toronto when we lost and we had to boo them off the floor because we were down by 40?
And that was home opener. Total opposite home opener this year. But this is something that the Celtics, I mean, they clearly have a statement. I mean, they clearly are trying to come out of the gates as sharp as they possibly can. And don't get me wrong, there's still stuff to clean up. Tonight, 8 turnovers. I mean, you don't want to have any turnovers, but for this Celtics team, under 10 turnovers, under 15 turnovers is freaking amazing. Like, that's awesome. That's huge on 24 assists. I thought Orlando was playing a zone all night, and it was really kind of messing with Boston. Boston's always had a tough time against the zone, cough, cough, Miami bubble. And the Celtics had a lot of good-looking shots tonight. I mean, there's a lot of shots that didn't fly. I know they ended up with 126, but they missed a lot of open shots. Those shots,
especially in the beginning,
right? Those shots got to go in, and they will over time. But the Celtics had a lot of great looks. They knocked them down. I think they had 13 or 14 of their 3-pointers in the first half. They came out of the game hot, and this is just so relieving. There's not really much to I guess. There's a lot to talk about, but at the same time, there's not, because the Celtics are just I don't know. I feel like this is just a whole other vibe. Like, the vibes are immaculate. Like, the Celtics are back. Like, this is Celtics basketball. This is a basketball we've been waiting months for. I mean, we saw it in the playoffs, but this time of year last year, the Celtics were one of the worst teams in the league with high expectations. And now I guess that team is going to be the Philadelphia 76ers, because they just lost to the Spurs on their home court. Now they're 0-3. They get a taste of what it's like. But it's just really relieving, Ian, to see the Celtics, I guess, come out like this. And like we were talking about, the amount of depth that we have, where even on nights where Horford rests and we have guys like Vonleh and Blake Griffin making the plays they did tonight against this Orlando team.
I mean, Vonleh was really good tonight. I mean, for the limited action that he got. Blake Griffin showed a lot of hustle out there too. And, we were concerned about the big man depth on this team. And, I mean, it's almost like they're running along without skipping a beat. And we see how talented this team is right now. And we don't even have Robert Williams back.
Right.
I mean, this team is going to be crazy when Robert Williams gets back. And honestly, I am so excited for it. And we've been talking about MVPs and, stuff like that. I mean, Jason Tatum, the way you're starting out the season,
right?
Breaking Larry Bird's record for most points in the first 3 games of the season. I mean, he dropped 35, 29, 40. I mean, him and John Morant are looking like the front runners right now.
You know what's crazy? Tatum scored the 40 on the second night of a back-to-back. That's a crazy thing where you just
after
played
he got 29.
Right. And he shot 14 of 21. Like, he was so efficient tonight. And I want to talk about that, because this is a whole new Jason Tatum. I mean, this is a whole other level of Tatum. We're not seeing so much of these sidestep, step back threes, crossover, mid-range shots. We're seeing get the ball at the perimeter, put your head down, put the ball on the floor, and getting to the basket. If you get fouled, you get fouled. You're going to the line for 2. If not, you're for sure getting a bucket or getting that offensive rebound. I mean, this is a whole other Jason Tatum. And this is a Jason Tatum the Celtics need, because the Celtics, not only just Jason Tatum, the Celtics as a team are best when Jason Tatum is driving to the basket and he's playing aggressive, even Jaylen Brown.
Another thing that I've kind of noticed with Jason Tatum, I mean, it still happens because it's going to happen, but he doesn't complain to the refs as much as he did last year. I mean, obviously there's going to be times where, you're going to say something to the refs no matter what. But, I mean, there's times where last year Jason Tatum would just run into the lane. He would go underneath the basket, flail his arms, and expect the ref to call it a foul.
Right.
And he'd be mad. And he doesn't do that anymore. And that just kind of shows the maturity of Tatum. The fact that he mentions this every single time he gets interviewed. The summer was hell for him because they couldn't get it done. And he's come back. He's looked like a completely different player. And, I mean, even today I saw, before I got on here, the post-game interview with Tatum. The first thing he said was, we need to be better on defense because we shouldn't have to score 126 points to win the game. And I mean, this just shows that Tatum's mentality is right where we need it to be. And I mean, you can't say enough on how good Jason Tatum has been to start the season so far. And I just can't wait to watch it play out for the rest of the year.
And I know 120, points. That's a lot to give up. And the Celtics certainly didn't play perfect defense at all. But I also think Orlando hit a lot of tough shots. And Orlando
Oh yeah,
came
Orlando
out.
was nuts shooting.
Like,
I mean, Orlando shot 44% from three. They shot 15 of 34 from three.
And they're not a
you just
3-point shooting
don't
team.
exactly like
Yeah.
they just hit all of their shots. And I mean, again, you don't want to let up 120 points, but when it happens, at least in this case, it just kind of happens.
Right. And at least in this case, you also get the win. So, like, your offense is doing
That's
great.
all that matters.
Right. And you know what's crazy? And you know what the good thing is? Obviously, you want to play both good defense and offense. You want to have the most complete game possible. But we know what we can get out of the Celtics defensively. That wasn't the problem last year going into the NBA Finals. The problem was the offense. We didn't have guys hitting shots. We didn't have guys moving the ball around. And when they did move the ball around, it would result in turnovers. They were just too careless with the basketball. That happens. That happens. The pressure gets to you and you get to that stage. Celtics haven't experienced that before. Last year they did. This year coming into it, we know this team. Still, even though we added guys like Blake Griffin, Danilo Gallinari, the expectations are still high on being one of the top, if not the top defensive team in the league. But we need to figure out how good of an offense we can establish here. Guys like Derek White, when Derek White is shooting 5 of 9 from 3 and scoring 27 points, and you have Sam Hauser, who just signed a 3-year extension. He comes in, scores 9 points. Peyton Pritchard came in, hit a couple of shots. He hasn't played all season. And then Grant Williams, corner office. That guy hasn't missed a 3 yet this year. Little over exaggeration, but you know what I mean. And it's just, that is so big. And seeing the Celtics come out these first 3 games with some offensive power and so is fluidity a word? I don't know. Fluency, whatever. They're playing so fluent. Like, I don't know what's a word anymore, but they're just playing so fluent and their offense is just kind of flowing really, really well. But I agree with Tatum. There's going to be nights where you got to outscore your opponent. It sucks when it happens, but it is what it is. A win's a win at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this too, just you and me. We talked about this before the first game. The Celtics, until Robert Williams comes back and until their defense gets 100% set, they're going to have to outscore teams. And that's something that they weren't able to do last year because they had to do the same thing last year. And, I mean, not only can we give credit to the players, we have to give credit to Joe Mazzulla. I mean, it doesn't seem like he gets talked about enough for, the fact that he's dealing with this entire situation and he's leading the Celtics to a 3-0 start. And, I kind of looked it up. I wanted to see if an interim head coach could win Coach of the Year, but I don't think it's possible because I don't know if you remember when Luke Walton took over with the Warriors.
Yes.
When Steve Kerr was out.
And that,
all of the wins that Luke Walton got went to Steve Kerr.
So technically Ime Udoka is 3-0 right now.
Technically. I don't know.
It's a weird system.
Still true. But at least what I saw, I don't know what it means.
But no.
Hey.
Yeah, Mazzulla's doing great.
Job.
Right. He is doing great. It's funny because Mazzulla is, I think, 2 years older than Al Horford. I just think that's pretty
he's younger.
funny.
He's younger.
Younger. That's what I mean. Like, Horford's 2 years older than Mazzulla. And then also, I think I heard that Blake Griffin played Joe Mazzulla in college.
Yeah, that was his opening interview. That was his opening interview. Blake Griffin.
That's awesome. That's just comedic. That's
so
awesome.
Funny.
And then you see Will Hardy out in Utah, leading the Utah Jazz to a 2-0 start. I mean,
did you see that interview that came out with Wick about how he told Danny Ainge if he took Joe Mazzulla, he was gonna strangle him.
He said, he did. He says, "I'm gonna fly out to Utah and strangle you." But I mean, this isn't. I don't know if it's unbelievable because we know the talent on this roster, but at the same time, it feels so good to be 3-0. Like, I get there's 82 games, and I understand the Celtics had a horrible start to the season, yet they were 2 wins away from the finals. I get, like, regular season and playoffs are 2 different things, but, like, it's like a breath of fresh air. I know we went to the finals last year, and I might sound a little ungrateful, but at the same time, last year was, like, such a wishy-wash, like,
Last
40
year, it just like took so much.
Yeah, it was just like draining. Like it was, it was like bittersweet. But this season so far, it feels pretty sweet. But the Celtics are going to have to lose sometime because you're not going to go 82-0 unless this is the first year a team does it. Before we close up here, because it is a short show, I want to talk about this Bulls matchup on Monday. So Celtics will play their third game in 4 nights at Chicago. I expect Al Horford to be playing. They say it's back soreness tonight. That's literally just so they don't have to label it as rest. Chicago, they're getting Zach LaVine back. Lonzo Ball is still going to be out, but they got Alex Caruso. They signed Drummond in free agency. This Chicago team, we both kind of talked about this on the podcast, and Rob too. This could either be like a top 5 team in the East if they could get healthy and have things click, but yet could so easily be a play-in team if things go as they went last season. So what are you kind of expecting coming into this Chicago game? Say LaVine does play and we get to see Caruso and Drummond and all these guys. How do you see that matchup panning out?
Yeah, I kind of expect another game kind of the same way that the first 3 games have been going, where and I'm not saying that the Celtics can't tighten up on defense. It's just right now, I think they need to get to a point where like they're coming back home and they have like a couple days rest to where they can really reset on that end. So I do think it's still going to be another offensive shootout. DeMar DeRozan is not a one-year wonder from last year. He's still insane.
Right.
Zach LaVine's looking good. Nikola Vucevic always finds a way to destroy the Celtics somehow. And Andre Drummond, Javonte Green, Ayo Dosunmu's really good with Chicago.
Yeah.
Chicago has a lot of really nice pieces, and when they're on, they're on. But when they're not, it's kind of hard for them to win games. So I'm kind of expecting another offensive shootout, although I do expect a pretty fun game. And the Celtics have some pretty interesting history with the Bulls over the course of last season. So the Bulls kind of started their decline and started their incline at the same time. So I'm excited to see what happens, though.
I know this was a year ago, and I think we've beaten Chicago once or twice since then. But I want the Celtics to come into this game and to remember what happened almost exactly a year ago, where they blew the 14-point lead and they lost by 19. Or no, they blew the 19-point lead and they lost by 14. And Marcus Smart called out the team. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum had to have a meeting together because they were that
was rock bottom. Rock bottom.
That was very rock bottom. And now we're in Chicago. I want this to be Chicago's rock bottom. I want the Celtics to go down by 19 and come back and win by 14.
I'd rather them win by not having to go down by 19.
No. You know what I want? I want to do you remember 4 or 5 years ago, Celtics went into Chicago and beat the Chicago Bulls by 56 points. I want the Celtics to do that same thing coming in on Monday night. I want Blake Griffin to have dunk over Kias on Monday night over the Chicago Bulls. But
I was talking about that. I was talking about that too on the live. I'm like, I wonder if Blake Griffin could still jump over a car. I'd probably say like a scooter.
Yeah, no, maybe like one of those box match cars, like one of those small
like the Matchbox cars. Like
one of those. Yeah,
I think he can. I think you're giving him a little. You're underrating his athletic abilities. I don't know, Justin.
I don't
For
know.
being the number one fan of the Blake Griffin fan club, I don't know.
Hey, listen, I will fully take Blake Griffin, and I told Rob this in all seriousness. I told Rob this tonight. If we could get those 5 to 7 minute stints where Blake Griffin is coming in with that ultra aggressiveness, going after every rebound, diving on every loose ball, maybe making a 3-pointer and a layup here and there. Like, we don't need the 20 points per game dunking over Kia's Blake Griffin. Like, obviously we would love that, but like, that's not his career. That's not his game anymore. Like, we have to understand that the game has evolved. He has evolved. And I am totally okay with Blake Griffin coming in as our third string big, or coming in, giving Al a rest. And if that means diving on loose balls, getting those 50-50s, getting those, corralling those rebounds, like those to me are way more valuable than a layup or a 3-pointer. And that's the type of effort the Celtics need from guys 1 to 15.
Yeah. And I mean, Scal said it on the broadcast, but when Blake Griffin dove for that loose ball after stealing it from Banchero, and when he dove for it in the first half too, he earned himself a Tommy point, his first Tommy points with the Celtics.
So inspirational, man.
So inspirational. But yeah, hey, remember Jason Tatum dropped 40.
yeah, no, I don't know, man. Yeah. Well, that's what if Jack was on the podcast, he would totally derail any of us talking about anything else other than Jason Tatum scoring 40. Derek White had a dunk tonight. Oh, but Jason Tatum scored 40. But look, this is a big game for the Celtics coming into Chicago. The Celtics got kind of a really tough schedule to start off. They got Philly, Miami, then Orlando, which was a trap game, second night of a back-to-back, and then Chicago. And then we play, I think next week we play Cleveland twice. So the Celtics, they're up 3-0 on their record, but they got their hands full. Certainly, they got a tough schedule coming up. But the road trip wraps up Monday night, 8:00 p.m. tip-off on NBC Sports Boston. We will have you covered here at Celtics Talk Weekly, BSNL Celtics for Celtics Postgame Live. Any closing thoughts, Ian? I mean, this was a huge win for the Celtics.
Hey, I mean, 3-0.
Oh, we got to post that. We got to post that. Marcus Morris.
3-0.
Joel 0-3. Joel 0-3.
3-0.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, look, Celtics Bulls Monday night will be there. Tomorrow, I just want to announce a little shameless plug. The Low Zone, my show on Good Time Content, is coming back to YouTube on Good Time Media's YouTube channel tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern. I'll have Seamus Darlingo on the show with me. So come on in and talk some basketball. We're talking a little bit of C's, but definitely going to talk about Paolo Banchero, the Los Angeles Lakers. They're struggling. Philadelphia 76ers, they're struggling. So we'll talk about those guys and a lot more. But for now, here at Celtics Talk Weekly, I'm Justin Lowe. That's Ian Angelo. Celtics take a 126-120 win over the Orlando Magic on the road. They improved to 3-0 for the very first time since 2009. Good night. Take care. I got to end.